Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing New.
Jermell Charlo says he's a bigger puncher than Canelo Alvarez. Look, let's break it down honestly and objectively as possible. And Jermell Charlo has recently come out, according to an interview with BoxingScene.com, where he states he's a bigger puncher than Canelo. That's going to be the surprise of the fight. He states, and I quote, "I believe I got the speed. I got the power. I know one thing about it is Canelo, he's strong. I feel like I'm probably the bigger puncher than Canelo. That's going to be the surprise." He also went on to state that I'm not just a little 154-pound fighter when I walk around, and I don't have to struggle to make 168, so I'm going to have a great time. Training camp has been going good. I've already been training for months. Not only that, Jermell Charlo will also have a 4-inch height advantage and a 2.5-inch reach advantage against Canelo Alvarez. So he's the naturally bigger fighter. He's going to have height and reach. And also he's stating that he's the bigger puncher. Now, the interesting thing about this, that Jermell Charlo, he's focusing solely on the power, which doesn't make any sense, because if you think about it, Jermell Charlo got outboxed and beat by Tony Harrison, and yet he was still the bigger puncher in that fight. So power doesn't mean everything in the fight. What Jermell Charlo doesn't realize is he was the bigger puncher in the Brian Castano 1 fight when he arguably lost and got a robbery draw. So at the end of the day, just having a lot of power doesn't mean anything on its own. And I think Jermell Charlo is missing that key fact. Not only that, you see when Jermell Charlo won his first vacant world title, the WBC world title against John Jackson, this man had already been knocked out. This man has already been knocked out when he won his first world title. So when you talk about power, what power? We've already seen this guy on the canvas. We've already seen this guy been sent to hell. Then the guy, he beat Jason Rosario in a unification fight. This concluded 3 belts for Jermell Charlo, but Jason Rosario had already been knocked out as well. So 2 unification fights, and you fought 2 guys who had already been knocked out. What power does that prove you have? You're not fighting and beating guys that have never been stopped, guys that have never been knocked out, guys that have never lost. These guys have already lost and been knocked out by the time you fought them for world titles. I mean, let's just be honest and unbiased about it. Not only that, when you fought Cota, even as a tune-up fight, this guy had already been knocked out. So what power are you talking about? Most of the wins Jermell Charlo has at 154 pounds were due to guys who had already been knocked out. Even Tony Harrison, that guy had already been knocked out before Jermell Charlo even boxed him. How many of your fights at 154 have been guys who had already been knocked out prior and lost? The vast majority. We got to be honest and unbiased about who Jermell Charlo is. And not only that, the question that Jermell Charlo should be asking is not about who has the most power, but who has the better chin. See, the thing is, Jermell Charlo has never been in with the massive major puncher. He's just never been in with that type of fighter. But Canelo Alvarez, he's been in with Triple G, Dmitry Bivol, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, amongst others. So we know that Canelo Alvarez's chin has been tested and tested and tested, and it's proven to be elite. Probably one of the best chins, if not the best chin in boxing today. But Jermell Charlo, we don't know what your chin is like because you have not been fighting killers and punchers. You've been fighting a bunch of guys that have already been knocked out. That's the difference. So don't worry so much about power. You should be worried about your chin. That's first and foremost. And another thing is that I have a problem with Jermell Charlo is he's talking like Canelo Alvarez has no skill set. He has no abilities. He talk about, oh, I'm the bigger puncher and I'm faster and this and that. But you're talking about Canelo like he has nothing else. Canelo Alvarez, on his undisputed run, he beat guys who had never lost, much less been knocked out. Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders. He had to have skills to time those guys, to break those guys down, and to stop those guys. These are all skillful, dangerous fighters. So at the end of the day, don't be surprised when Canelo Alvarez's skills and power show up in the fight. Because men lie, women lie, but the facts don't lie.